Hi, good morning, everyone. As you're coming in, welcome, welcome. We will be getting started very shortly. Thanks for being here. Welcome, everyone, again. For those that are still coming in, we will be getting started in just a moment. As you see, people are still making their way in. So we'll get started very shortly. Okay. Maggie, I think if you want, you can go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Kira. All right, well, welcome everyone. So today we're here to discuss how to build a Safe Routes to School action plan and just steps involved in creating or strengthening an existing Safe Routes to School program. And doing so will help you prepare for this summer's Safe Routes to School grant, which is administered by the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT. So today, this webinar is hosted by the Active Transportation Alliance, Illinois Public Health Institute, and my name is Maggie Czerwinski. So I'll be your presenter today. So we actually have John Paris here from IDOT, who will be here in the very beginning to talk a little bit about the grant. And we also have Kira and Sarah from IPHI, Illinois Public Health Institute, here to help with technical support, and they'll be running the chat. So if you they'll be putting resources in the chat throughout the presentation. So with that, so a little bit of housekeeping. So we're recording this webinar. We'll put it up on activetrans.org/SRTS, which is a website really dedicated to Safe Routes to School, to the grant, and a lot of resources. And you're all muted automatically. So if you do have questions, add them to the Q&A chat box or the chat box, whichever one you can see. And I don't see the Q&A. So add them to the where you can, and we'll address those at the end of the webinar. And if you need closed captioning, that is also available in your menu. And so again, I'm Maggie Czerwinski from the Active Transportation Alliance. I'm the Director of Community Building and Leadership, and our organization, we're a nonprofit based in Chicago, and we advocate for walking, biking, and public transit to create healthy, sustainable, equitable communities in the Chicagoland region, as well as across the state. And this webinar is possible through the ISPAN program, which is the Illinois State Physical Activity and Nutrition Program. So we provide technical assistance, but it's a partnership with the Illinois Public Health Institute and funded through the Centers for Disease Control. So this summer, we're going to be hosting a 3-part Safe Routes to School webinar series all about the grant to help you walk through that and make sure you know what's eligible for funding, and that'll be coming this summer. But before we get into that, just wanted to give you a little bit of a teaser about this grant coming up this summer. So the Safe Routes to School grant is administered through IDOT, funded through the Transportation Alternatives Program, also known as TAP, as well as the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And because of that, it is 100% funded this year, which is exciting. This grant it opens up every 2 years. So it's on odd years, opens up August 1st through early October. That's when it closes, and there will be $12 million in funding this year, which is more than previous years. So, and again, 100% funding is available, so no local match. And with that, I do want to turn it over to John Paris, who's just going to speak a little bit about the grant, as well as the opportunity to meet with him and IDOT staff to talk through your potential grant application. So John, do you want to take it over?
Sure. Like Maggie said, our next funding cycle will open August 1st and will probably run till about, I think, October 15th, 16th, something like that. And so you get a little extra time this year, a couple more weeks to get your applications put together. Not a lot has changed. We do have $12 million this year in funding, which is more than we've had in the past. And also this year, as she said, all of the projects, infrastructure and non-infrastructure, will be funded at 100% of federal funds. So you don't need any local match. So at least on the financial side, you have no reason not to put in an application for this year. It is going to be very competitive. I will say that we've had a lot of activity, a lot of people interested in some of the programs, especially with the non-infrastructure programs. So it's time to get to work. A lot of work to do. Infrastructure, not a lot has changed with anything. With the non-infrastructure side of the projects, we do have some mini grant toolkits available this time, which should make it easier for everybody. And those tool grants will basically have all the resources you need and all of the instruction you need to hold an event or start a program. And you get all that plus the money to do it. And we hope to be as involved as possible with you during those events. Kelly, who is Kelly Larimore, you may know her. She has been our Safe Routes to School coordinator for the past 3 to 4 years. And unfortunately for us, she has taken a promotion in a different state agency. It's going to be an exciting opportunity for her. Can't blame her a bit for taking it, but we will certainly miss her. But she has worked very hard to put these toolkits together, and she's been to several events over the past few weeks. And as the weather has gotten better, and we're excited because she's put in a huge amount of work to get these done, and she's made this whole process as easy as possible for anybody who'd like to start a non-infrastructure project and program. So that is going on. Really not a whole lot to say other than that. We will, in the past couple cycles, we have been collecting submitted applications through SharePoint. That's come with a couple of difficulties. This year, I believe we're working on finalizing a different approach. We will probably accept applications through OneDrive, which should be much easier and a little more seamless as far as submitting the applications. Those details will be forthcoming on our website. We hope to get the website all up to date by July 1st, sooner if possible. And so there's that going on. Also want to make sure to let you know about our special program assistance conferences. We did this for the first time in 2023. It was very popular, and we're doing it again this spring. And in fact, we've doubled the number of venues that we're going to. And basically what we're doing is we are traveling around the state, and we are having 2-day conferences. The morning of the first day will be presentations about 3 of our programs. The Economic Development Program, Transportation Enhancement Program, and of course, Safe Routes to School. So that is the morning of the first day. The afternoon of the first day and all of the second day, we are taking appointments. You can sit down with us one-on-one. The appointments last a half hour, and we can talk about your applications. We can talk about your program, your projects, whatever you want to talk about. We will sit and listen and help do whatever we can to make sure that you put in the best application possible for the best designed project possible. So that's pretty exciting. And you can, if you want to know about those dates, I'm actually doing one right now in Southern Illinois. But as far as dates and times, you can register. Go to either the Safe Routes to School webpage or the ITEP webpage. Those, if you go to the dot.gov website, go to the search and type in either ITEP or SRTS, and they'll take you to those specific pages where you can sign up and register for these conferences. The attendance has been very good, and we've got a lot of people interested in all of our programs. So we are busy, but we like being busy, especially when we're helping you get some money. We have a lot of money to give out. We love to give it out. We love to see good projects happening. So hop on board with those. Anything else, Maggie?
No, I think that's great. No, thanks so much, John. And yeah, be sure to take advantage of that opportunity to meet up with John and other IDOT staff to get assistance, direct assistance on your applications. So thank you for popping in to share all of that. And John will be back actually at, here, I'll go to our next slide here. We're again hosting this 3-part webinar series, and John will be at all of those. So the first webinar will be July 16th, and we'll be reviewing the entire grant in more depth. Just again, what's eligible, who's eligible to apply, scoring criteria. And then in August 20th, will be the second webinar where we will walk you through the application, and John will be available to answer questions that you have. And then part 3, September 17th, that is all about the Q&A. So to help answer your last minute questions before the grant closes in October. So save the date. The registration links are also available, and we'll make sure to send those out if you're not already registered. But it is great to see so many people on this webinar already. I think you're smart to be thinking about all of this now and getting prepared for the grant. You'll have a better application later this summer. So, and one other thing we wanted to mention, we, as part of the iSpan program, we're offering additional one-on-one support, application support to 5 to 10 communities. And there is, we'll be reviewing your narrative and just help you think through it. You can, if you're interested in that, you can fill out a questionnaire form, very short. And a link to that will also be in the chat. And then finally, so what are we going over today? So we're gonna start with going over building a local Safe Routes to School program, just some general steps to consider. And then how do you create a simple action plan and what goes in that action plan? And then finally, we'll wrap up with resources. So just a quick overview about why Safe Routes to School, why is this important? So, 50 plus years ago in 1969, there were nearly 50% of all children were walking or biking to school, but over the last few decades, that has declined considerably, and today about 13% of children are walking or biking to school. So Safe Routes to School is a national initiative that to make it easier, safer, more fun for students to walk and bike to school. So it's all about reducing traffic, improving safety, promoting healthy habits from a young age. And so just there's some data, some studies that have looked at what is the impact Safe Routes to School can bring. So schools that have Safe Routes to School programs see an increase in walking and biking to school, roughly 35 to 45%. Also a decrease in pedestrian injuries, and that can really, with both engineering infrastructure solutions as well as program solutions, can can help improve safety, so decrease those injuries by 45 to 75%, and also get kids more physically active and ready to learn. So there's a number of benefits. I won't go over all of these, but you know, better academic performance, the creating connections between the community, climate benefits, improving safety, cost savings. There's a lot of many reasons to invest in a Safe Routes to School program. So there are 6 recommended steps that you can take to start building a program or to revive an existing program. So we'll go over each of these, starting with bringing people together. So first step is, you know, identifying who wants to make walking and biking in your community safer and more appealing for students going to school. And this can, you can, you know, bring together, it can be focused on a single school, or it could be district-wide, or it could be a different level. But the key here is start brainstorming who should be involved. And maybe there is an existing group out there that you can tap into to hold a kickoff meeting. So perhaps there's a city, village, or school district safety committee, a PTA group that meets, a pedestrian bicycle advisory board. But otherwise, you can also form your own Safe Routes to School coalition or task force. You can call it whatever you want, but the key is bringing people together and thinking about who should be at this kickoff meeting to really think and brainstorm, like, how do we want to make it safer to walk and bike to school? So thinking at the school level, community level, and the local government level. So at the school level, make sure to invite the principal, other administrators, parents and students, teachers, representatives from the PTA or PTO, the parent groups, and maybe there are some other school representatives you can think of in your situation. At the community level, thinking about community members, as well as different groups like neighborhood associations, local businesses, local advocacy groups, as well as groups representing people with disabilities. And then at the government level, your mayor, your president, council or trustee members, and then so elected officials, as well as staff, so planners, transportation, engineers, public works, also public health professionals and law enforcement. So, you know, think about expanding your list of who you'd want to bring together, because bringing together a diverse group will help ensure that your Safe Routes to School program is created to reflect the needs and perspectives of your entire community. All right, so 2 is actually hold the meeting. So bring all of these people together. So you'll want to have a few goals in mind when you're bringing people together. So 1 is creating a vision. What do you want to see in your community? And then 2 is gathering feedback from those who are there on what types of programming they'd like to see. And then 3 is determine next steps for the group. So to create this vision, you could ask everyone to share a positive vision for the school in 5 years. So what would they like to have? For example, they'd like to see fewer cars at the entrance. They'd like to see more active and healthy children. They'd like to see safer walkways. And then it's definitely worthwhile to share various Safe Routes to School strategies and programming ideas, which we'll go over shortly, just to get you started, get you thinking about what might be possible. And the group can decide what they'd like to work towards, and maybe even create some subcommittees. Sometimes we've seen like a group that's dedicated to, all right, they're going to gather information and data. And then there's a group that's going to be focused on engineering and traffic safety, and another group focused on outreach to the community. So you'll just want to leave that meeting with some next steps in mind. So when will the next meeting be? Is there anything the group would like to produce, such as an action plan? So step 3 is gathering information, identifying issues. So this will be especially useful for any grant you're applying to, especially the upcoming Safe Routes to School grant. Some of this is required data that you'll need in, in August through October when the grants open. So one is doing some observations of walking and biking conditions for students. So you can do a walk audit, a bike audit. You can look at what are conditions for students to understand their current travel patterns, the barriers, what's working, what's not working. And you could walk around the school as a group to observe potential issues and solutions. And then also interview key stakeholders like students, teachers, the principal, who often have a lot of insights on what the experience is actually like. And then two, how many kids are actually walking and biking to school? And there are some parent surveys and some student tally surveys that you can do in class these are actually, there's stars next to these because they're required data for your Safe Routes to School grant application. And really this data is going to help you determine what your priority should be. So if you could do this, you have, the schools generally still in session for most schools around Illinois. So you do have some time to do this. It could be a good time of year to collect this data. So you'll be ready to go in August, but you could also do it, collect the data in September. And these surveys and tally information that's available on the IDOT Safe Routes to School website. That again, recommended and required for the grant. And other data you can also think about collecting is traffic count data, speeding data around the school, injury crash data, to again identify what are the issues and potential solutions. So after you've identified the main issues, now it's time to identify the solutions. So what would make it safer for students to walk and bike to school? What would make it more appealing? And there is a Safe Routes to School 6E framework, which we'll go over shortly. And that includes things like education, encouragement, engineering solutions, to kind of help you structure what do you want to focus on. All right, so now the fifth step is to make an action plan. And so it's time to bring everything together in one document. So the action plan will help you go from identifying problems and solutions to actually implementing the solutions. And it can be a big help again for your grant, like showing that you have an action plan can definitely give you a leg up and really just getting you started on some goals and some planned activities and timelines. So an action plan really doesn't need to be lengthy. It's a living document, and it's just a way to help you really get clear and have some actionable items that you can get started on. And you also don't need to start from scratch because there are some really helpful resources out there, and we'll be going over resources in a moment, but they are there to help guide you. And finally, just a reminder, after you have this action plan, why not apply for funding? And again, it's 100% funding this year. So the IDOT Safe Routes to School grant opens again beginning of August through, I guess, sounds like mid-October. And then as John spoke about, they have that special programs assistance conference that you can really get that one-on-one feedback from staff during that session. And then we also have the webinar series, July through September. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about action plans and resources. So creating an action plan will help you prepare again for the Safe Routes to School grant. There are a few national resources out there that are wanted to mention. There's Safe Routes to School National Partnership and then the National Center for Safe Routes to School. Both of those websites they have a plethora of resources and ideas that you can use. And the Safe Routes Partnership, the top one there, they have an action plan matrix it's a template, a Word document, to make it easy for you to create an action plan. So this is actually a kind of a screenshot of one of the pages. So essentially the left column, it has your strategy. So the first one here is establish a safe routes to school task force. But it could also be like, here we're gonna do a walk to school day. And then second column is you have a timeline to kind of hold yourself accountable. When would you like to accomplish this goal? Next column is who's leading this. Maybe it's the city or village, maybe it's the school district, and then supporting partners. And then if there are any resources, and that's it. It can be quite simple, but this matrix you can just download online. You can use some of the ideas already in it. But it's there to help you out. So you're, again, not starting from scratch. So I'd like to go over a few programming ideas that are recommended by some of those national groups, as well as what we've seen other schools do in our state. So, and just one note, as you're making your plans and developing activities, just always be thinking about how can you ensure that all students throughout your community are benefiting from these programs. So first, one of the first E's here is engagement, education. So some ideas here. One is classroom instruction. So we have a collection of resources that you are very welcome to use and take and adjust however you'd like. This includes curriculum, it includes lesson plans, that includes links to other materials like and resources and tools like Ride Illinois' bike safety quiz, which if you've never seen it before, it's a fun youth-focused quiz on the rules of the road. And then Parent University, this is, you could organize a training session to educate parents. For example, how to lead a walking school bus, teaching your child pedestrian safety. And I should mention that all of these ideas here, there's opportunity through that Safe Routes to School grant to apply for funding for these types of programs. And then principal newsletters. So this could be get your school principal to share safety tips and resources in their newsletter. And again, some of these ideas maybe you could use the funding. Some are just require some time and some effort. So you don't even need funding for a lot of these ideas. And then fourth year is hire and train crossing guards. So encouragement, so walk and bike to school day is something you can participate in. There's a national bike and roll to school day coming up next week, I believe it's May 7th. And you can use that day to celebrate and encourage biking to school through fun activities. Walking school buses and bike trains. So this would be an organized group of kids walking or biking along a planned route to school with adult volunteers. And there's actually a really great training that was recorded just a week or two ago by Chicago Family Bicycle. We'll add a link to the recording in the chat, but that's all about how do you organize a bike train. Also here on the list, bike rodeos. These are fun obstacle courses where you can teach kids how to ride their bikes safely by practicing skills and learning about the rules of the road. That's definitely something I've seen schools apply for funding, Safe Routes to School funding for. Remote drop-off and pickup. So this would involve potentially finding a park or another location where you encourage parents to drop off their kids, and then kids would then get a chance to walk or bike to probably walk to school, so they're getting some physical activity in the morning or on their way home. And then finally here on this list, early dismissal, which I know is a very popular reward for schools that do this, where students who walked or bike to school get to leave maybe 5 or 10 minutes early. So popular, easy change you can make. Some other encouragement ideas: you can show your appreciation for your crossing guards by dedicating a day to them. You can start a a walking or biking mileage challenge. So students can have a punch card where they win an award after so many days or miles of walking or biking. And then this golden shoe idea. So you could get a local celebrity, maybe it's the principal, to donate a shoe, and you can spray paint it gold and give it to the classroom with the most people walking and biking. And it can be a fun way to, and everyone loves a good competition. And then traffic gardens, and I actually have a slide with some visuals. So these are, and a number of communities received a grant for traffic gardens during the last Safe Routes to School grant cycle, but these are kind of scaled down, fun, safe environments that where you can teach children about rules of the road, traffic safety. So they have roadways, they have intersections, traffic signals, crosswalks to really mimic real world situations. And then another idea is you could distribute a walking and biking route map. This is an example from the village of Glencoe where they mapped out preferred streets for walking or biking. And then also on that map is showing where are the traffic lights, where are the stop signs, where are their crossing guards. So just so parents and students have all of that information. And then engineering ideas. You'll need to get your city or village involved in this, but engineering solutions can definitely have a huge impact on safety. Some solutions might be safer crossings, so a high visibility crossing, as shown in the picture on the right. It could be traffic calming, like a curb bump out or a refuge island or pedestrian island. It could be just making sure there are sidewalks on both sides of the street, so eliminating the sidewalk gaps. Looking about signage or signals, and in general, just thinking about complete streets in your community to make sure people walking and biking also have a safe space to get around your community and for kids to actually get to school. We've used just an idea of like, how do you collect community feedback on what people like to see? We've used posters like this to collect ideas. Where people can put a sticker on what ideas they like the best. And you can really, bring this to a school or bring this to a parent meeting and have people vote on what would they like to see in your community. All right, so now we'll wrap up with resources, and Kira's going to drop a handful of links in the chat related to these resources, and we'll also make sure to send these out to everyone who registered. But the Safe Routes to School National Partnership, that's a link to their website. That's where that action plan matrix is. So a good link to bookmark. The Centers for Disease Control, they have a school health index, which we just wanted you to be aware of, that it's a online tool, so you can self-evaluate like different policy ideas and practices that your school could implement to improve health, to reduce youth health risk behaviors. And then some other teacher education resources. So if you go to activetrans.org/resources/education, that's where there's a link to a lot of lesson plans, activities, videos, games that you can utilize in your classroom. And the bike safety quiz, which I mentioned earlier, this is just a fun quiz that kids really like to learn the rules of the road. And I think starting in September, I think there's a mini grant that will be available where schools can receive $2 for every student that takes the quiz, up to $2,000. So a way for a school to bring in some extra money, potentially to use for walking and biking programming. And then two other resources that I have some slides for. So the Safe Routes to School Communication Toolkit. This is actually designed by IPHI, the Illinois Public Health Institute. And it is a great resource to share with schools. It includes just a lot of kind of plug and play resources, templates that you can download from social media posts to event flyers, one pagers, and just key messaging that by audience type. So whether that's parents, teachers, students, community, and the a lot of the information is available in both English and Spanish. So a great resource to be aware of. That definitely spread the word about that. And then another resource that I think is a good kind of go-to resource with that really contains all of the ideas that we shared today is the Building Blocks Toolkit by the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. So this includes a link to that action plan matrix template. It also includes, if you wanted to have a Safe Routes to School resolution, there's a sample resolution. If you wanted to hire someone focused on Safe Routes to School, it includes a job description. And then there's a invitation letter that you could use if you wanted to, create that task force and bring people together. So a lot of great resources, and just a recommended reference for building your action plan and building your ideas for your community. So just a summary again of what's recommended. So one is, bringing people together, creating that task force or committee to really focus in on what does your community want to do to improve Safe Routes to School. Develop an action plan with your goals, with your planned activities, with the 6 E's, with timelines. And again, this plan will be helpful for you with grant funding. And then apply to Safe Routes to School funding this year. So again, opening August 1st. And this is a really great time to, if you're a city or a village, reaching out to your schools, getting them on board, and getting ready for that funding cycle. And then 4 is kick off education and encouragement activities. You can do a lot of this work without funding, but funding does help and makes a more robust program. So you can do a little bit of both. And if you do have connections to any local schools in your community, share these resources with the schools, get them excited about the possibilities of what they can do, encouraging healthy habits in their students. So that is all we have for you. If you do need to contact me, my email is maggie@activetrans.org. And again, we'll make sure to share all of these resources and probably some others that we talked about with you afterwards. And I'm just going to check the chat to see if there are any questions. So feel free to, if you do have any questions. Oh, there are a few questions in the Q&A. Okay, so there is a Q&A and I just didn't see it on my, got it. Okay. So is an action plan a required document to apply for funding? It is not required, but it's just a helpful document to have, but definitely not required. So, and in that first webinar on July 16th, we'll go over the required documents. And again, as I mentioned, one of those requirements is the student tally and the parent survey. So that's something to be thinking about during the month of May, if you can get your local schools to send those out to parents and schools. It's a good time to do that. And your next question is, will these slides be available via email? Yes, we can send out a link to the slides, as well as we'll post the slides on activetrans.org/SRTS. So yeah, you'll have the recording and the slides. And then next question is the funding 100% for both engineering and construction or for engineering only? Okay, so the funding, if you're doing an infrastructure project, the funding is only for construction. So engineering, like phase 1, phase 2 engineering would not be eligible for funding. And what IDOT has said in the past, and I think John had to head out. But what IDOT has said in the past is that usually safe routes to school programs or infrastructure projects are smaller in nature, so that communities are expected to get that engineering done either in advance or within 6 months of applying to safe routes to school. And then the grant would actually then fund 100% of the construction. All right, so next question. What are the most successful strategies you've seen for increasing student participation in safe routes to school programs? I guess that's an interesting question. Like I do feel like it depends on the school and just the audience and what the interest is, but I definitely seen some like just doing simple things can be a good start, like participating in the national walk to school day or bike and roll to school day can just get kind of things started. But then doing fun activities, I think, is essential. Like doing some type of competition can be fun. That early dismissal, very popular with students. Having some incentives, and again, you can apply for safe routes to school funding for this, but that can be a motivating factor. And I do think like having several different touch points can be helpful. But yeah, good question. I'll think about that and maybe talk more about that. We can talk more about that in one of the summer webinars. All right, so how are infrastructure improvements prioritized within safe routes to school projects? So sidewalks, crossings, bike lanes. So I guess that's really for the community to decide what to prioritize. And I think getting the feedback from students on like what are the issues and the parents and teachers, principal, what are the issues, so you know what to focus on. I know that IDOT has said when you're thinking about projects, you want to start at the door of the school and go outwards. So they don't want to see, like, you have a 2-mile radius around your school to think about infrastructure solutions, but IDOT doesn't want to see some like crosswalk 2 miles away from school when you're not addressing what's going on right around the school doors. So thinking about that, but I really do think it has to do more with finding out what the biggest concerns are in your community to prioritize. And then what is the maximum grant amount? So it depends on if you're applying for infrastructure versus a program, non-infrastructure. We'll go over all of these details this summer, but just for a heads up, for infrastructure, it's $250,000 max award. For the non-infrastructure programming, the max is $100,000. And then let's see, okay, I think we answered both of those. Okay, a lot of people had questions about the maximum funding. And will the funding cover design and construction? And we did go over that already. It just covers the construction. Yes, and again, the max award, $250,000, similar to past years. And yeah, no engineering fees are covered by this grant, so just construction. So and during, I highly recommend attending that July 16th webinar, because we'll really get into those details, and we'll have IDOT available to answer all the questions. And actually, if you go to activetrans.org/SRTS, if that's to school, there is a Q&A our FAQ that we updated for this grant cycle. So that might also help address a lot of questions you have around engineering, construction, award amounts, eligibility, if you wanted to kind of get a head start on thinking through all of this. So, all right, with that, I think we answered all of the questions. I just want to check the chat to make sure there are no other. Oh, and Kelly's here from IDOT. So she added some of the details in the chat. I think we answered everyone's questions unless one just popped up. Oh, how long will this funding be available? So this particular grant opens up every 2 years, so every odd year. I think if you're asking like how long do you have to spend the funding, Kelly, you might have to help me with this, but I believe it's 18 months from when awards are announced, but that is something that we'll have to double check with IDOT about, because I don't want to speak to that too much. And that's something that we'll be going over in July. But if you're asking, you know, is this funding coming back? Yes, it comes back every 2 years. It's administered through the Illinois Department of Transportation. All right. So I think we answered everyone's questions. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you're able to start thinking about you know, getting ready for this grant. We hope you're able to put together an action plan, get your community involved. And yeah, good luck with everything, and we'll see you hopefully in July. So have a great rest of your week, and expect an email from us if you registered for this, and we'll talk to you later. Great. Thanks everyone.